Welcome to One-on-One, New York's longest-running sports call-in show. One-on-One nightly, a little hour-and-a-half show. And we have a special edition here for you today. It's the World Series, the Bronx Bombers back in it for the first time in 15 years. Classical matchup, too, against the LA Dodgers. The OG Subway Series between the Yankees and the Dodgers when they were here in Brooklyn. But how's it going, everybody? I'm Will Talent. Joined with me today is Chris Carrino and Angel Ducret. We got a lot in store for you today. If you want to call in, ask us a question. We'll be talking a lot of baseball, and we'll finish up with some basketball. 718-817-2750. Before we unpack what's going on with our hour-and-a-half-long program tonight, Chris, Angel, what's going on, guys?
Nothing much. We talked about it a little bit pre-show, but a real exciting time right now in the sports world. Always kind of an exciting time in the sports world for us, but really just in general, the amount of content we're receiving right now is it's almost overwhelming, and it's enough to worry about with this week of stress leading up into the World Series. But basketball is coming in now, football is still at full swing, and the hockey is even almost an afterthought, and that's still kind of getting into the full swing as well. So everything really getting started, and I'm here for all of it.
Yeah, I mean, I call October the best month to be alive because you have all major sports happening at the same time. You know, every day you're going to get some type of action. If it's baseball, basketball, football, hockey. And just to have the Yankees finally at this time of the year, like, something to watch, I mean, how can you not be happy about it, man?
You can't. It just doesn't get better than that.
No, it doesn't.
They have not gone home yet. They still have 4 games to go before they can not be home for the year. How awesome would that be, that they are the World Series champions? But at least they're there for the first time in 15 years. So to go through our recap of our show, what we're going to go over today on our One-on-One Nightly, we're going to preview the 12th Fall Classic between the Dodgers and the Yankees. The most matchups between any two teams in World Series history, it goes to the Dodgers and the Yankees. They add to that legacy. We'll go over how the Yankees made it. We'll go over how the Dodgers made it. Talk a little bit Mets. We'll talk about those Mets for a little bit. Playoff run. It comes to an end. And we'll look at that offseason outlook. A lot of questions that could be answered for the Mets this offseason, Angel.
Yeah, there's a lot of questions with the Mets. I mean, I feel like not the entire team, but there's a lot of major pieces that go into free agency. Alonso, of course, highlights everyone. You have Winker, who is your trade deadline acquisition, and then your pitching staff is something to figure out. So there's a lot to go into Mets. I know, unfortunately, we all wanted the World Series to be a Subway Series, Mets, Yankees, but at the end of the day, Mets have a bright future, and hopefully it starts with this offseason coming up.
Yeah, I wouldn't be disgruntled as a Met fan. I would be excited. I would be hopeful. I feel like this is only the beginning for the Mets. It didn't feel like the culmination of anything. It felt like the start of something. And this Met team has a bright future. They obviously got to sign Alonso. There's some decisions to be made, including one across the city with a one named Juan Soto. But the Mets in a good spot, just on paper right now. Something that you really couldn't have said about the Mets in a long time. Even back in that Verlander, Scherzer era that was a couple of years ago, it didn't feel like they've been set up as well as they are right now. It's probably been almost a decade.
Yeah, really strong farm system too that the Mets boast out there. A lot of pieces that they can work with. They could make some trades, get rid of some guys, have some guys settle in with how deep that farm system is. We'll have our thoughts. We'll have our predictions. And to wrap up the show, we'll talk about the NBA opening night. We'll call it yesterday. I know most of the teams are going to play tonight, but Celtics, Knicks, probably have a lot of takes about that ugly showing from the New York Knicks. The Boston Celtics, they tie the single-game record for a team with the most three-pointers in one game. Unbelievable stuff. And LeBron James and Bronny James Jr., they share the floor first time, also the first time that a father-son duo has ever done that.
It was wonderful to see. I do think it overshadowed what was an extremely impressive Laker performance and an extremely interesting story involving J.J. Redick and that whole situation, the narrative surrounding it in the moment where the general media and the general public was saying, LeBron got his podcast buddy to be his coach now, all that, when in actuality, in an X's and O's, from an X's and O's standpoint and just a general hustle standpoint, the Lakers might not have looked better than they did last night, probably in the last 3 or 4 years. So J.J. Redick has them playing the right way, but yeah, that story is fantastic. One of the best stories, not only of this year, but in the last couple years in the NBA. It should almost be impossible to play with your son in a sport like basketball. In a sport like baseball, it's a little more acceptable, maybe for my mind to understand, but basketball, it's almost impossible in my head.
Well, we have a lot to talk about. Fun, packed show for you today. When we come back, we'll preview the Dodgers-Yankees World Series, first one since 1981, but we'll be right back here on One Nightly.
This is Nick Palmer, one of your beat reporters for the 2024 New York Yankees. The Bombers are bashing their way to a playoff run with their prolific talent down the lineup. Will Aaron Judge best his AL home run record? Will Giancarlo Stanton shift into playoff form? You like jazz? For exclusive player interviews, recaps, and analysis, follow me on X at NickPalmer55. WFUV, your home for New York sports.
Back on One Nightly. If you want to call in, join the show, be a participator. 718-817-2750. Hit that line up. We'll chat with you. We got an hour and a half here to go, and we're starting with the preview of the 2024 Fall Classic, Yankees and Dodgers. First time these two have matched up in a World Series in 43 years. And as I said before, it's the most amount of World Series matchups between two franchises. It'll be the 12th in both of their storied histories, past matchups. They go all the way back to the 1940s, 1941, 47, 49, 52, 53, 55, 56, 63, 77, 78, and 81. That's covering a lot of different decades right now. And that is also pretty surprising that it's been 40 years since they've played in the World Series. Both have had really good teams along the way since then. The Dodgers won that last one in 81, 4-2. The Yankees were up 2-0. The Dodgers won 4 straight, and the Yankees lead 8-3 in the 11 head-to-head matchups. We got the history out of the way. There's some names that we'll throw in there as well when we talk about the names that are playing with these two teams. But I want to start with, this just feels right. It feels right. It feels like this is something that's been brewing for at least the past 7 years, if you want to say longer, because I know both of the teams have been pretty good. The Yankees had a little bit of a struggle in the mid-2010s for a few years there, but this is what everyone has been waiting for 100%. It's Judge and Ohtani, it's Cole, and it's Yamamoto, it's Soto, it's Mookie Betts, it's Stanton, it's Freddie Freeman. These are the fireworks that you want if you're Major League Baseball.
Will, it has the potential to be a sports saver in a lot of ways. I think
I can't say you're wrong.
If you really scope out the Google Earth to looking at the Earth as far as you possibly can, this sport of baseball is falling into a place of mediocrity where it's going to fall into a category similar to hockey, where now if it's not local and your team, it's not your team and it's not your area, it can almost come as an afterthought. My dad was in San Francisco, Niners Chiefs this weekend, after the game, or actually before the game, Saturday night, Game 5, Soto hits that home run. Obviously, us here in the Bronx, whether you're at Chas McAdams' apartment or you're at Clinton Hall like myself, it felt like an explosion. It felt like the world was shaking. It felt like nothing else in the world mattered except this Yankee team in this series. My dad was in San Francisco at a bar. He thought he was maybe the only person who noticed it happen on the TV. He's yelling and jumping in the bar, and nobody else can even slightly care in the San Francisco area. That, to me, shows where baseball is right now at a national level. Dodgers, Yankees, the two best teams, the most talent. It's rare the two best teams have the most talent. We got that here. The two biggest cities, the two biggest brands in the sport, the two biggest of everything in the sport, now going head-to-head in possibly their primes of their organizations and kind of where they're going. This can really do unimaginable things for the sport. A 7-game series of nothing but entertainment in this series could literally lead to this sport being propelled back into the mainstream in a real way. And I don't think I'm speaking in hyperbole. I would like to, if you disagree.
No, you're not. I mean, we finally get the East Coast, you get the West Coast, you get number 1 seed in the AL, number 1 seed in the NL, right? This is something you haven't seen since, I think, 2013, when it was Boston and I think the Cardinals. Like, we're not used to not just the parity of the MLB that we had an entire season long, right? We're not used to the powerhouses matching up at the World Series anymore. I mean, last year we were talking about the Rangers and the Diamondbacks. Nothing against both teams, but we know ratings were down. We know not many were tuning in, all right? Not much star power, but you finally get Aaron Judge, you get Shohei Ohtani, right? That's like picture perfect if you were MLB writers or if you're in the office right now, because you have the two biggest stars in the game going head-to-head. And you can talk all you want about their postseason numbers, who's in the top who. At the end of the day, it's the best for baseball. It's, East and West is something you haven't gotten in a long time. I know you got the Mets and Dodgers in the CS, right? And that was the closest you got from, like, New York and L.A. These are teams that were circling each other for, like, the last 5-7 years. If you see, like, preseason rankings, like, everyone expected this World Series, like, three times in probably the last 5 years because of just how star power each team is. And you finally get it now. Get ready to fasten your seatbelts because it's going to be a show.
Yeah, and the Dodgers have had those stars for quite some time. They've been on quite a tear in the NL West over the last 12 to 13 years or so. The Yankees, they've stumbled a little bit in the championship series. The Dodgers, they win the pennant in 4 of the last 8 seasons now. So Dave Roberts, it's a testament to Dave Roberts and the job that he's done over in LA, but
two laid-back Cali guys managing both of these rosters as well. Usually you
Judge and Stanton and Cole also from California.
A lot of California representation.
Yeah.
I don't have a full point on that. I just think it's I think it's fascinating, and also from the managerial standpoint, both these managers have a more laid back sort of way of doing things, and you don't really see that. You might see that in one manager. It's rare that you see a matchup of that in the World Series. Just interesting to see how both teams have managed.
But you also get two managers that in the beginning of the season you were questioning why they still have their jobs. Like
in some senses, yeah.
They were too laid back coaches, 2 coaches that are like team first, you would think, that don't have that kind of like extra edge to just make it to the next round.
Mm-hmm.
The Yankees keep getting bounced from CS to CS, so not making the playoffs at all last year. Dodgers keep on failing since their 2000 run, which you can say if it was a fluke or not, but 2 managers who proved doubters wrong, honestly, throughout the season, throughout the playoffs. I want to say Dave Roberts and Aaron Boone have been not just the best managers each series, like actually like managing their team to like not just win a series, but like almost to perfection, like the right decisions, everything. But when you think of these 2 guys, they're close. They're good buddies, I'm pretty sure. But now this series is gonna can't bump heads right now. It's winner take all. Whoever's gonna outcoach each other, honestly. So I think that's gonna be the deciding factor. Can Boone outcoach Roberts? Can Roberts outcoach Boone?
I think Boone definitely got himself a few more years. I think Roberts was fine regardless. You want to roll with what you have in terms of Ohtani coming in. They also had a few guys come in on longer-term deals as well, who all have been under Dave Roberts. Boone definitely, I think, was in some hot water this year. If they couldn't get anything done, I think his job has been saved 100%. I do want to look a little bit further into this Game 1 matchup now. Not all the rosters have been announced as far as I know. Up until an hour ago, the last time I checked, didn't see any. Did see that Yoshinobu Yamamoto will start Game 2, but let's talk about Game 1. Garrett Cole and Jack Flaherty, it's what we have so far, but the reason I really want to highlight it is that Jack Flaherty, kind of guy who comes over from Detroit, has a very solid season to get traded. And imagine if the Tigers had him. What could that have done for their run? I don't know, but it's definitely helped the Dodgers out on this run 100%. And in the postseason, a little shaky so far. That last game against the Mets was a complete implosion. Game 5, 3 innings pitched, 8 hits, 8 earned runs. And against the Padres as well, not an implosion, not great. 5 1/3, 4 earned runs, 2 home runs, that is. It was great in Game 2 against the Mets. 7 innings pitched, 2 hits, no earned runs, and 6 strikeouts.
Can I just come in for a second on the health of these pitchers?
Absolutely.
It's just insane how different the health rooms or just the injury rooms are between these two pitching staffs.
100%.
One team has to throw a bullpen day because that's how low they are. They don't really have a third starting pitcher. And the Yankees have guys on ice. They have Nestor Cortez on ice. They have Marcus Stroman on ice.
They expect Cortez back for the series as well. So just
Yeah,
imagine adding him.
And those guys haven't done anything yet. They have these guys on ice. I think the Dodgers would be pitching either of those guys if they had him as a third starter. It's just
100%.
Interesting, and we can get into more Game 1 as specific, but it's interesting the spots that they get put in just due to their health, and it's honestly gone as an afterthought how healthy this Yankee pitching staff has been.
Yeah, they've been consistent all year round. We'll talk more about the teams, but Garrett Cole was their biggest absentee for the whole season in terms of starting pitching. Maybe Clark Schmidt missed some time too, but they were missing the reigning American League Cy Young for quite some time. The Dodgers, not as lucky on the starting pitcher side. Boatload of injuries I want to go through, but I want to talk about Garrett Cole for a second too.
Yeah.
Kind of shaky in his first start against Kansas City. Nails to win it for them. He was solid in that game against Cleveland. Nothing too crazy, but I think this is where Garrett Cole may enter that next gear for the Yankees. This is a great opportunity for the Yankees to steal Game 1 in L.A. If you could split in L.A., that's perfect. If you could
that's perfect
do it
scenario
with
for you.
Garrett Cole, I think the Yankees have a legit shot at that too.
You can give yourself a chance with 3 games at home ahead of you to close it out at home and go. And if best case scenario you win 3, the parade is getting scheduled for the week after. That's the ideal scenario to be in. You don't want to be down 2-0 going back home. Now got to win back to back just to get yourself back at even. It's pivotal to get one of these games at Dodger Stadium.
I think it's pivotal to start off right. Like Game 1, you have your ace on the mound.
Yeah.
You want to start off. You want to win that game, right? If it's Rondon over Schmidt for Game 2, I'm not saying, you have less hope for either starter for Game 2. But when you have Garrett Cole, that's a game you have to win no matter what, in my opinion. And the Yankees have been
You could have him for 3 games, too.
You got him
by the way.
for 1, 4, and 7,
if it goes
right?
7, yeah, he could be ready for 7.
And we're talking about a Yankee team who is the best team on the road, I think, record-wise. And they showed it in the Royals series, showed it in the Cleveland series, that they could win on the road. So just splitting the series, going to New York, even if you come back to New York the next 3 games, even if you just win 2 out of 3, I would still feel confident going back to L.A. and just winning 1 more of those games. So I think the crucial part of the series is just not going down 2-0, going home now. If it's still in Game 1 or Game 2, you'll take the 1-1 series. If you can go up 2-0, I mean, that's perfect scenario over here, but I'll go for, best case, 1-1 series with Garrett Cole on your mound.
And we'll talk about him more when we talk about the Dodgers. I think Walker Buehler is going to be a very, very pivotal piece for the Dodgers in the World Series in particular. You don't really know what you're going to get out of Jack Flaherty. Yamamoto shoved against the Yankees in, when was it, June? Whatever, in the regular season. He was phenomenal. Walker Buehler is going to be very important for the Dodgers in this series 100%.
Yeah, very, very important. In the case of the Flaherty, Game 1 gets kind of left out to dry by Roberts in his last start against the Mets. Really didn't pitch well. And then Buehler needs to be the only consistent, which is what he has been the last week or so, or last 2 weeks or so. It feels like Flaherty can have a bad outing. It feels like the bullpen can be spotty, but Buehler being that steady anchor for this pitching staff is essential to them winning, I think.
Buehler is definitely the key to the Dodgers winning the series alone, because that's your third starter. After him, you go into a bullpen game. And if you're the Yankees, no matter what game it is, if it's Flaherty, Yamamoto, or Buehler, you want to get to the bullpen early because you know that there's going to be a bullpen game in the series. You want them as tired as they can be for that game as is. So if you're Buehler, if I'm thinking in a Dodgers perspective, you want to have a good outing, save your bullpen because you can really make or break this series. And, I mean, you mentioned Yamamoto, like, shoving against the Yankees. I'm not saying he didn't. The only reason why I don't want to use that game as kind of like proof or whatever
a while
you want to say.
ago too.
Not just a while ago. Remember the lineup that we had?
Yeah,
in
exactly.
June?
No, that's what I'm saying.
How
too.
different
it was a while ago. That's how different the Yankees look.
No Soto, Jazz. Torres
They're
wasn't
banged up, and Jazz wasn't there yet. Yeah,
I would have a little bit more hope against Yamamoto, just the Dodgers pitching staff in general, because of the lineup that Boone has been putting out, especially during the Cleveland series.
Rookie pitchers in the World Series too.
I didn't even think about that. That's another factor to think about. Like, this is his rookie year.
Yeah,
and he hasn't been that great in the postseason. The World Series is a bigger animal.
it sure is. But we'll talk about how the Yankees got to the Fall Classic once we get back from this break. Really having a great time. Lots of World Series discussion. Let's talk just Yanks after this break on One Nightly.
Hi, this is Ben Oppenheimer reminding you to tune in to New York's longest-running sports call-in show, One on One. Catch One on One live on the WFUV Sports YouTube channel every Saturday from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. and then later on 90.7 FM from 11 p.m. to 2 a.m. We'll catch you next Saturday on One on One.
One Nightly, New York's longest running sports call-in show. 718-817-2750 if you'd like to dial in, start the conversation, be engaged in the conversation with myself, Chris Carrino, and Angel Ducret. Let's talk Yankees now, all Yankees stuff. Let's get right into it. American League's number one seed, 94 and 68. Sure, weaker season for all of the American League, all of Major League Baseball, not a single 100-game winner, but personally, I don't really care. They won 94 games. They were the best team in the American League. That's just how it shook out. That's how it went down. We'll talk about the easy path. I have a rebuttal for that. I just don't think it was that easy. The Yankees were just the best team in the American League. That's all it really came down to for myself. Propelled by another MVP season for Aaron Judge. I think he's the clear-cut favorite. He's going to win the MVP, 58 home runs, 144 RBIs. I personally think it was his best offensive season, better than his record-breaking season.
Yeah, because he had a very unproductive April.
Yeah.
When you think about it. If you think about those numbers, what that April accounted for, it is extremely impressive. When you look at this Yankee team, you slightly alluded to the narratives of the path maybe being a little too easy. I can't disagree more, especially just in the actual examples of the games and the series. When you look at the ALDS and you look at the ALCS, they were not easy series by any means. That Royal Series, that ALDS, Yankee fans watching that one back, it'll be a lot tougher than you remember. The Yankees did feel like they were in control, but even that game one at Yankee Stadium, it comes to the end with a big Verdugo hit, and then they lose a game in that series, and a few of those games did not look like they were fully in the Yankees' control. They get away and get past the Royals with that one, and then that Guardians series, it didn't feel like any of those games were fully Yankee controlled. It felt like game one was maybe the most the Yankees controlled the game, but they were pretty much in battles for what was it, for 9 games straight, 8 games straight. And it has been the opposite of a cakewalk, especially with the talent on the other side. I don't think it has been a cakewalk. I just think the level of this Yankee team makes it look like that because of how good they are.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when you look at the end result, Yankees beat the Royals in 4, then they beat Cleveland in 5. So you think, all right, they only beat the Yankees one time each series. It's a cakewalk. It was easy. But then you actually dive deep into the games.
Mm-hmm.
Every game in the Royal Series was close. Every game in the Cleveland series was close. Like, there was not one game where the Yankees beat them strictly on offense. It was pitching had to keep them in the game until the 9th inning, or even in the Cleveland series to extra innings, and then the offense just had to come in clutch at certain moments. I mean, game 1 in the Royal Series was a back and forth lead change after lead change. Then you have the loss in game 2, the close games on the road, right? Then you go to the Cleveland series. You guys win 2 games at home, which you were supposed to do against Cleveland. Then game 3, you lose off a walk-off. And you thought everything was shattered at that moment, right? Then game 4 and 5 were both because of back and forth, just action, and the Yankees just battling it out towards the end. So to say that it was an easy path, you're discrediting that the AL Central was actually a really good division.
They hit 3 playoff teams.
That's what I'm saying. Like, Tigers, Guardians, and Royals, all 3 good teams. Like, they had the talent. Yes, the Yankees on paper have more talent than all those teams, whoever they were to face, and you can say yes, the Houston Astros and Orioles should be in those positions. Well, guess what? They lost before they can even make it, so don't even throw that in the discussion, right? So the Yankees got what they were given, so it's not their fault for that, and they took care of business. Like, I don't understand this narrative.
The
that was
Astros
easy.
got swept by the Tigers in the ALDS. Like, are we supposed to, like...
They had a chance to win.
Baltimore got swept by Kansas City.
And we're acting like, oh, because they lost, this takes away credit or discredits this Yankee run. It's backwards and doesn't make any sense.
They both lost at home, too. Houston was the home team. Baltimore was the home team. It's not our fault that the Royals and Tigers took care of business on the road. And trust me, it was a great series overall, right? Like, Houston won. Tigers, they showed the grit. Royals, they showed the pitching that they clearly brought to the next round against the Yankees, because we all saw those games. Like, the starting pitching, they had the number. They had their number.
I do also think, and we'll get into this around, we're about to talk Dodgers in a little bit, but I do think that the Padres and Mets, they're looked at as the 98 Braves and the 97 Indians when we talk about them, and then the teams that the Yankees played, it's like, oh, it's like the Angels, and like, it's like, no, like, the teams that they played are not significantly better than the Guardians and Royals. They just aren't. The Padres are really good. They're probably better than the Royals. I really don't think there's a crazy discrepancy between the Guardians and the Mets.
We're talking about every team that was in the postseason coming into postseason hot. The Mets were the best team since June. The Tigers the best team since August, right? Cleveland has always been a steady, good team throughout the year. You never really had a moment in the season like the Yankees that, they kind of like dropped down and looked like...
Yankees have really had their number in the postseason recently, too.
I won the last 4 series against Cleveland, I believe, since 2017.
Cleveland's baseball organization just exists to lose to the Yankees in October.
It's
basically.
like the Twins in the postseason with the Yankees.
The Mets definitely had a better starting rotation than the Guardians. That's where the Yankees won this series.
Guardians had a better bullpen, though, I think.
Guardians have a top 5 bullpen in Major League Baseball. To run the numbers a little bit, though, to show that it really wasn't as easy as everyone wanted to make it out to be. People, obviously, they want to hate on the Yankees. That's what people do. That's totally acceptable.
They have the juggernauts, man.
They had the 3rd best starting rotation in Major League Baseball based on WAR. The Yankees won 3 of the 4 games. They also have the AL MVP runner-up in Bobby Witt, who they kept quiet. He didn't do anything in this series
Defensively,
whatsoever.
really good.
Yeah,
fair.
absolutely.
He was
but
always defensively. Really
he's going to
good,
win the
you know?
Gold Glove this year,
Yeah.
but offensively, he didn't do anything for the Royals. That Yankees pitching must be pretty solid. They shut them down. Beat the Guardians in 5 games. Jose Ramirez is going to finish top 5 in MVP again for however long it's going to be. Not an underrated baseball player. Plays in a quieter market. He's on a Cooperstown track. They shut him down 4 for 15. Home run and 3 RBIs in the championship series. We're talking about 4 pitchers in a back end of a bullpen for the Guardians who had a sub-2 ERA. Emmanuel Clase had a sub-1 ERA. Tim Herron, Hunter Gaddis, Cade Smith, and Clase. Clase, 2 home runs, 5 earned in the regular season in 74 innings pitched, 3 home runs and 8 earned runs in the postseason. I just think that's just how the Yankees played them. They're just the better team. They were just the better team. It wasn't an easy matchup. The Guardians were the 2nd seed in the American League.
They were fighting with the Guardians into the last week of the season just
They were
for
all
the
close games.
1 seed.
They were
Oh
all-
yeah, that
they
too.
were
But
all
like
close games.
just to get the 1 seed, they
Yeah.
were fighting with Cleveland
Went down
throughout
to like
the
the
end.
last game of the season.
Exactly. So you can't even say that Cleveland was, the Yankees are a better team overall, and they showed it in that series. But you can't even say that Cleveland was like completely bad. Like it was just so worse than anyone else that you could have faced, right? Because when you have a bullpen highlighted by Clase, who, could get Cy Young votes with how great he was in regular season, when you're able to tag a player like that in the postseason, not just the home runs. I know the home runs were big, but like just the hits as well that led up to those moments and leads to him to a 10 ERA in the postseason. I mean, that's what it's all about in the postseason. Like when you get used to a pitcher for however many games it is since it went 5, he pitched maybe 3 of the 5 games. But just the more and more you saw Clase, the more and more you were able to time his slider, time his cutter. Because listen, he was unstoppable. 100-mile-per-hour cutter, I would have missed it too. Like any player would miss that pitch. But
Yeah, that's a pretty nasty pitch, dude.
But then when you're just used to the guy, when you're used to the way he releases the ball, when you see the movement of the cutter and the movement of the slider, and you know what's coming, then it's easier for you to tag the ball. And that's what happens in a series where Cleveland, they rely so much on their bullpen that those guys are just being exposed from game 1, and the Yankees finally took advantage of that, and that's what propelled them to the series, and that's what will propel them in the World Series if they can do the same thing to the Dodgers. Because I would say the bullpen, not better than Cleveland, but they have a top bullpen as well. I would almost give them the 2nd best bullpen in the postseason. And if you can tag Cleveland's bullpen, I see no reason why you can't tag the Dodgers.
And I also see narratives surrounding this Guardian team that they didn't they weren't managed well, they didn't walk when they needed to, things like that. And then I hear people saying, the holes in this Yankee lineup, Alex Verdugo, Jazz Chisholm.
Verdugo's been solid.
First of all,
Yeah.
if your holes in your lineup, first hole in your lineup is Jazz Chisholm, that's a pretty good baseball team, first of all. Second of all, those, like you said, Verdugo has been good. And also, just looking at this Yankee lineup, I don't think it was managerial mistakes rather than just consistency that maybe they weren't expecting. The Yankee team was so there when they needed it almost at all times. This Dodger team is really good, and I do think they probably have less holes in their lineup. Their lineup probably is more complete. But to say that the Dodgers have a large advantage in the offensive setting, I think that's ludicrous.
And Aaron Judge also, as you said in the beginning, Chris, horrible month of April, and the Yankees were still able to keep it afloat. That's why they got Juan Soto. That's why they were able to do that, because if they don't have Juan Soto, they're probably 500 or under 500
Probably
in
missed the
April.
playoffs again, honestly.
And that will just kind of segued me in beautifully, but I really think that this series has an insane amount of correlation to 2009 and the same amount of there's an insane amount to compare with these two series. This Yankee team, it's a Yankee offense that you haven't seen play together at this level with the stakes this high. Same thing in 2009. Obviously, the A-Rod acquisition was earlier, but they get to share in that offseason.
Yeah.
And that offense as a whole, you didn't get to see play together until that 2009 season. They missed the playoffs 2008.
Mm-hmm.
Yankees missed the playoffs in 2023. You're going into the World Series as an underdog with a team that everybody thinks will beat you, not necessarily, but
if you look at all the sporting books, they have the Dodgers as
making a
favorites.
generality. Phillies were the returning champs at the time.
Yeah.
Dodgers feel like the returning champs with the way they're talked about. It just feels very similar to that series, and I think what a lot of people learned from that 2009 series was the Yankees were not the underdog that they were being portrayed that they were. The Phillies were really good, but the Yankees were just on that level, if not better. I feel the same way about this year. I feel like this Yankee team, through their competition or through other means, has almost gotten discredited in a negative way when talking about their talent stacking up with a team like the Dodgers. The Dodgers have been known to have this talent factory, and they're known to be just this very deep team that doesn't have any holes, and they're fantastic everywhere. I feel like the Yankees have almost played themselves into that position over the last week or two, where it really doesn't feel like there's many holes at all. Guys like Jazz have struggled. Verdugo in the last couple games has struggled. But
Yeah.
I do think when you think talent juggernauts between these two teams, first of all, there's a lot of correlations to 2009, but also I do think it's a lot closer than people think. This is as close as it can be, as close of a pick'em as you can be when you brought up betting odds.
We're also talking about a Yankee team throughout the DS and throughout the CS. They made the World Series without their MVP playing like the MVP. Like, we all talk about Aaron Judge's like struggles in the postseason and the numbers and all that, and it showed. I mean, he was below 200 hitting wise. I get it. He had the big home run off Class A in the CS, and he also had another home run at home. Big moments as well. But when you look at his overall game in the CS and the DS, he practically did not show up. But the Yankees still won those games without Aaron Judge.
That's the idea, though. That's what, because last year,
You needed Aaron Judge to win a game.
yeah.
If
Mhm.
you can
That
play,
was what they needed to fix.
if you can play, listen, Judge needs to show up for the Dodgers series 100%. But if the Yankees can prove that they can still win without Judge being the MVP that he was, like, listen, Stanton, great player in the postseason, and he showed it. Soto, great player as well. Torres, did you see the stat with Torres and Soto in the first inning? They were like maybe 15 for 18.
Were they
or
really?
like they
Glaber's been a catalyst.
the
for
the,
the
o,
lineup.
the I think the OPS the on base percentage was like over 800 together in the first inning alone. Like
That's crazy.
like when you have those two getting on base all the time, and you just have to rely now on Judge, Stanton, Jazz, whoever's in there as well as a Jazz, just to get that run in. Like, they gave them a chance to guarantee themselves a run every first inning, which is crazy.
Yeah,
to think
and
about.
Glaber also made this adjustment in the leadoff spot. I forget who he was talking to. It may have been Meredith Marakovitz, but he was saying that he was going to start swinging at the first pitch more often because it's typically the best pitch that he sees, and he's been all over everything that's thrown to him. If it's not a breaking ball, if you're throwing him a fastball of any kind, he's going to swing at it first pitch. So Glaber's been he's been a revelation at the leadoff spot for them.
And in comparison to the past, 3 or 4 Yankee runs that have been in this last half decade or so, that initial consistent hitting has not been there, where you have a leadoff guy
The
who's getting
timely
on
hitting,
a ton.
it's just not.
Yeah, and just in general, getting rallies started throughout the game, but more specifically in the early stages of the game. That's something they haven't had, that now with Glaber's consistency has been there. He had some stretches of that in 2019, but never for this long, where he's really been this consistent, and then obviously never had anybody like Soto. There's never been anybody like Soto.
Soto's a generational talent for a reason.
Fantastic. I even heard Mad Dog, he called him the best hitter since Ted Williams yesterday.
It
which
kind of
made me
is
laugh.
the way that the game has gone along and how it's progressed. How many guys can you say, yeah, he walks more than he strikes out every single year? That's a Ted Williams-esque guy and hits for power.
Not even that, but in the way you're saying with strikes and walks, I've just never been more confident a guy is not going to get sat down on a strikeout than Juan Soto, specifically that last one in the 9th inning in that Game 5. It's just he's not going to let the third strike go by him. He just won't. He's just going to dominate you. I've never seen a hitter just mentally and physically dominate a pitcher like that, because the pitcher is so... the hitter is so inferior in that relationship of a pitcher, and I've just never seen a hitter be so dominant.
Guys, he took a pitch that was up and outside to right center field.
Yeah.
Like, not only was he
He
locked,
made him throw the fastball, too.
exactly, he made him throw the fastball,
Forced him to.
pitch, because he was just fouling off every breaking ball that he had. He had in that bat, he knew he was on him. Like, was all over him. He said it post game, like he was locked in. He saw the pitches out of his hand, and all he needed was that one fastball, and he was going to turn on it. And Juan Soto's just that guy. He's just one of the best plate disciplined individuals in the league ever since he came up with the Nationals. And for him to do this with the Yankees, his walk to strikeout ratio, not only did that help him, of course, but that helped Judge become more of a walk to strikeout ratio. Like, both of them leading the AL in walks and all that, because just the play discipline from both of them. You have managers who are walking Juan Soto to get to Aaron Judge because that's how great Juan Soto is in just getting on base or setting a tone up for the rest of the lineup. And when I didn't want to cut you guys off, but when you were talking about Gleyber Torres and like him swinging first pitch and all of that, Torres has realized that with the leadoff spot and you have Soto and Judge going behind him, that if he sets the tone, he's gonna get the pitch. So all he has to do is just get that pitch and he'll get on base. Because he knows that the pitchers don't want to pitch to Soto. They don't want to pitch to Judge. They want to get Torres out with the first out and then have to worry about them and with no one on base. So that's something that Torres has excelled with, that taking advantage of who's behind him and taking advantage of the first pitch and the fastballs given to him.
Gleyber Torres, and also not just him, but a lot of different Yankees, as you're both alluding to, they've just stepped up, something that we haven't seen whatsoever. I got to highlight Anthony Volpe, man. He's got
man.
That's like 46%
You
on
can't
base
forget about
percentage. He's batting .310 as well. OPS over 800. He's just been awesome. He hasn't hit any home runs, and he only has 1 RBI, but he's constantly on base. The only weakness, as you were saying, Chris, is Jazz, and it's totally been fine. His defense at third has been solid.
Also Austin Wells.
Yeah,
Especially
he looked a
because-
little bit better in the end of the series.
I only said because if you're going to bat him fourth,
Sure.
it's a little tough when
Sure.
he's struggling as well.
Yeah, but it's been working, though, and they've changed it up a little bit. I don't know if they move Rizzo out of that 4-hole spot. I think, honestly,
He's been good.
he has been,
But
but
you don't
that's
expect that.
But that's how the rallies kind of start for the Yankees. If you have Anthony Rizzo in the 7 or 8 hole, 7, 8, 9 comes up, and Rizzo's hitting that well, like, you're getting a guy on base to at least bring up Gleyber, Judge, Soto. So everything is clicking for the Yankees right now. They've risen to the occasion when they've needed to. They've come up big. Now they're in their 41st World Series. But when we come back on One Nightly, we'll talk about the Dodgers, and we'll have a little special guest, Nick Palmer. He'll be with us very shortly on One Nightly.
What's up, everyone? I'm Will Talent.
And I'm Evan Harkin. We're two of your hosts for NFL Friday, WFUV Sports' exclusive NFL podcast.
From breaking down the weekly slate to fantasy football pickups, we've got you covered on all things around the NFL.
Stay tuned for our hosts' weekly picks as they compete against each other all season long.
Football is here, and so is NFL Friday.
One Nightly. We're back once again. Hello. 718-817-2750. Nick Palmer. He's in the building.
Whoa! What are you guys doing
He's
here?
in the studio. What are you doing here?
Oh, this is my nightly routine. I just sort of sit in the studio for an hour just every night, and it just so happens
It's
that you
amazing,
guys are
dude.
here.
Found us on a Wednesday. Hello, Nick Palmer.
There
Again,
he
Nick
is.
Palmer right next to me. It's a great time of the show.
Angel Ducret to my left is the greatest pleasure I've had
Man,
this
don't,
week.
don't make me cry on a nightly right now.
Look at that. You're making weeks, Angel. That a boy.
You're making weeks.
Way to be. Way to be. But
Palmer's riding a high, to
Love
say the
fit.
least.
Love the fit, by
Nick,
the way.
Nick
Angel.
Palmer, though.
That's
Nick
awesome.
Palmer.
That's awesome.
I had to go with the A-Rod fit for the Yankees.
Can I explain my fit real quick?
Oh.
Yeah, you're
Sure.
you're a Dodger fan.
Fernando Valenzuela died,
Yes, we were just going to mention that.
he
Rest
passed
in
away.
peace. Yeah.
unfortunately.
It's a
Real
Palmer,
quick
it's a Palmer
story.
move to make it serious when we were making fun of you.
Dude, I need
It's
to
on
talk
us.
about
It's
it.
on us.
I recorded Nosebleeds about 3 hours ago, and I was also wearing Dodgers.
Floor is
gear for
yours, Palmer.
Fernando. My dad met him apparently as soon as he retired at a gas station. Said he was the nicest guy he's ever met. The amount that he's done for Latinos in Southern California, he started it, man, with baseball. And now if you go to a Dodgers game in 2024, 75% of the crowd is Latino, and a lot of that has to go to Fernando Valenzuela. So shout out to him.
Fernando started it. It felt like Manny Wood kind of really cemented it when Manny was really
Manny
getting going.
Wood
in LA.
for sure. I mean, there are a lot of great Hispanic names that have come through the Dodgers organization, but shout out Fernando. He was an icon. A little bit before my time, but still, like I watch a lot of it, and shout out him, man. Great.
Yeah,
We'll see
rest
some of
in
those
peace.
jerseys Friday night at Dodger
Oh,
Stadium.
for
100%.
sure, for sure.
What an unreal run, too. 8-0 to start his career.
Man.
0.5 ERA. He was
Fernando
he was
Mania
really
ran
something
wild
else, man.
for years, man.
half
For
an earned run ERA.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Through
His
8
first 8
starts?
starts. What did he
Holy
had a complete
moly.
game, all 8 starts too, right? Or like 7 of them or whatever. I don't
That
know.
Oh
It
my
was
god,
ridiculous.
dude! His first couple seasons were beyond exceptional.
But like his first 8 starts of his career were just like unbelievable.
unhittable,
though.
unhittable.
But explain,
Unbelievable.
Palmer, why you feel the need to explain yourself in the Dodger hoodie.
Cause I have the Yanks in 7. That's why I have.
Do you
to
have?
explain
You're
myself.
rooting for the
So you
Yankees.
Oh yeah, well,
Yeah, let's
preface it real
let's
quick
explain all of this
because Nick
Explain
Palmer
his
he just
lunacy.
came out of nowhere. Nick Palmer just came
I'm
out
here
of nowhere.
now. On
He's
One
here.
on One Nightly.
So Nick Palmer is a Yankee and a Dodgers fan.
Correct.
A lot of people here think he should pick one. That's not a bad idea, but Nick Palmer,
We
he's
have a
got
platform.
He's got
Also-
reasoning behind it.
Don't say a lot of people like it's just like it's a
It's
silent.
everyone.
It's just it's
It's
society that
It's-
wants him to stop.
Nick Palmer, yeah, it's flying around in the staff assignments email chain too. People like that's when you know
Dude,
everyone is on it.
Last couple days, I've been getting hate DMs
Whoa.
from people.
From, ran-
that-
from
listen,
people
we-
you don't
Not from
know.
random. No,
Oh.
it's from people I know.
That would be hilarious.
But
That
they're
would be-
unprompted. They're unprompted. So I feel the need to explain myself.
So Nick's
Floor's yours.
Nick's a Yankees and Dodgers fan, and
Yeah.
Nick just told us Yankees in 7. So we're
I
gonna
did.
talk Dodgers,
Wow,
but
where's a Dodgers
before
hoodie?
we talk about, see, yeah, but before we talk about the Dodgers, why Yanks in 7?
Yeah.
Why Yanks in 7?
And just
feeling it?
give a
why,
sentence.
why do I want Yanks in 7, or why is it going to be Yanks in 7?
Nick
well-
Palmer grew up in Los Angeles. Spent
18
summers
years.
spent summers in New York. There's a duality in his
There's a
in
duality
his fanship.
because I spend 3 months watching Yankees baseball,
Absolutely.
and I spend 4 or 5 months watching Dodgers baseball. How am I supposed
I'm
to
sorry,
pick
your
one?
grandfather could be Vince Scully, your grandmother could be Susan Waldman. I still think it's insane.
That's
You know what I
fine.
mean? Like I
That's-
just still think it's absolutely preposterous.
So maybe it
that
should be
was great.
Dodgers Islanders. Should it be Yankees Kings?
Ooh, we should do that. We should find a way to pick it for you. You have to abandon 2 of your favorite franchises, and you have to really just buy into 2.
Let's just spin the wheel. Just
Or no, you
What-
one from
what
the
do you
other.
want
You
from
get
me?
one
Hold
LA
on.
team
What
and
do
you
you
get
want?
one
Hold
New
on.
York team.
What do you want from me?
I want to hear why you think the Yankees are going to win
Yeah,
in
yeah,
7.
yeah, yeah.
But you also said why I want the Yankees to win in 7.
I'm not sure the Yankees will win in 7.
Okay, so what's the prediction?
What do you? Yeah,
what's
yeah.
happening here, Nick?
You want them to win in 7.
I want them to win in 7.
His
But
heart.
what's your
says-
My
prediction?
heart
What's the
says I
prediction?
need the Yankees to win this year for reasons.
Okay.
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 Let me give you the reasons.
Please.
First of all,
Please.
is Juan Soto a guarantee next year? Sure, we made it to the World Series. Sure, I think we have the money. But if Philly or the Mets offers him more, are we that surprised that a Boris client would maybe go for that? It's not a lock.
That's
And
fair.
if the Yankees do not have Juan Soto next year, do their World Series odds increase or diminish?
I didn't even think of Philly. That would be.
Nah, he's
Oh,
not going
I've
there.
heard Philly this whole
I've been
postseason.
hearing.
This
I've
whole
been hearing it.
postseason,
Him and Harper.
So-
would, ugh,
A Yankees without Soto, are we confident that they're going to win the World Series? Yes or no?
no.
After, no,
Right.
not even
No.
close.
Which means this year has got to be the year. Let's look at the Dodgers. The Dodgers have Glass now, Kershaw, and Ohtani all off the bump.
You're answering this in the most annoying way. You're like,
Because-
well, the Yankees. This is their only shot at it. The Dodgers will be good forever.
Next season,
Do you deny that the Dodgers will have the highest World Series odds of any team? Glasnow, Yamamoto, Ohtani, Kershaw, and Buehler
That's
as
fair.
their 1 through 5.
It's a fair
They
point.
are the World Series favorites going into next year. Right now, they are seriously hampered. They threw 2 bullpen games against the New York Mets and somehow came out of that alive when Landon Knack throws meatballs down the plate and somehow they made it out alive. The point is, and Jack Flaherty, by the way, he's had 2 decent starts in the postseason, also 2 awful starts in the postseason.
Yep.
I do not trust the Dodgers rotation going into the series, and that's the only reason that I see the Yankees can win this in 7 is if they pounce on Flaherty, and if they somehow get one game where they rock Yamamoto, and then take the bullpen games in stride, take this game in 7, and the Yankees win the World Series, Dodgers win it next year, and that's the reasoning that I have.
I don't mind Dodgers winning it next year for sure. I could see that. They're obviously going to be the favorite, 100%. You bring up a lot of points as to why that is.
You got to pick one, Palmer. It's like
This year I have the Yankees in 7.
No, but I mean,
No matter what you say, just pick a team.
we will represent California and New York appropriately, but with hockey and baseball, we need to get you just one.
I think my hockey
each.
explanations also.
No, they
incredibly
both
viable.
make sense, but the whole thing doesn't make sense.
What about it doesn't make sense? I feel like I've explained myself.
No. Again,
very well.
I hear you.
It all makes sense.
I
What
hear-
I'm saying is, I just feel like you would just enjoy yourself more.
I love sports so much that I prefer to love 2 teams because if you take any Yankees fan off the street, I guarantee I will know more about the Yankees than that guy, and if you take any Dodgers fan off the street, I will know more about the Dodgers than that guy.
I think your
I have a
personal
lot of
double
love
duty.
to give to baseball teams, and so what if I
He's
need 2
giving it
teams
out.
to do it because I have lived in 2 cities, and that's what I need.
I think your heart is in hockey. I think your heart's with the Islanders, and in baseball, I think your heart's with the Dodgers from afar.
I would have thought the other way
From
around.
afar.
That's a perspective to take. I'm not willing to shed any of that information because I don't know it myself.
Fantastic. No, but in all seriousness, I also don't think anyone's more qualified to talk about this World Series because
Thank
of what you just
that
said.
means a lot, Carrino.
Because you are covering these teams. Yankees, you're covering professionally. You're following these teams so hardly. It would be way more frustrating if you didn't. Like if you were just
Oh, of course.
as they call it, Urban Outfitter fan. That would be frustrating.
That's what they've been calling it on the graphics. That's what they titled
the one
our
that's on us right now.
Our Nosebleeds episode today happened to be Urban Outfitter World Series. And
that's amazing.
I rejected that title, but democracy overruled it.
It's all
so.
the 2 franchises that have surrounded you are the 2 biggest in the sports.
It happens to be that way, but it also happens to be that I've lived in those 2
You could have been an
cities.
Angel fan. That could have happened.
I
Could have been a Padre fan.
could have been a Met fan.
That's San
Anaheim's
Diego,
not a
though.
city. Let's be real.
Close enough.
Fair.
Well, I want to talk about the Dodgers. For
Let's
a
talk.
finally
Oh
talk
my
about the
God!
Dodgers.
Let's talk about the
Dodgers. You mentioned the injuries. They
Earthquake.
Sorry.
a lot going on over there.
Sorry.
But we're back. No worries, man. We're all good. A lot of injuries. A lot of rookie injuries too. River Ryan, Gavin Stone.
Okay. All right. Look.
That
Okay.
sucks.
Gavin Stone sucks. River Ryan, he wouldn't have pitched in the postseason anyway. Let's be real.
That's fair. He was just really good in
he-
his
no,
small.
He was great. He
Small
wouldn't have
sample
made the
size.
postseason roster.
That's fair.
But Gavin Stone totally sucks because Rookie of the Year candidate. Are we like?
Oh, he totally was.
Let's be totally.
He'll probably
real.
still get votes, but
He's
totally
gonna,
was.
He's gonna get votes. He's not gonna win it, but Gavin Stone would have been awesome in the postseason. And imagine Gavin Stone being your long reliever going
Yeah.
into next year because
That's something
your
to worry
starting
about.
rotation is so stacked. What Gavin Stone and Walker Buehler? That's what you're weighing right now.
as the
That's
5.
awesome, as
Walker
the
Buehler
5.
isn't Walker Buehler a free agent too?
Yeah, I could imagine them going back with him, especially after that performance in.
The CSC.
But you think
Divorce.
it'd be just like a
Yeah.
1-year deal though?
I don't imagine them trusting him for more than that. However, if this is the turning of a new leaf for him, if he's finally over the injury, because it's been 2.5, 3 years that Walker Buehler's been under.
Gavin Stone is also
Under
out
the
until
knife?
2026 too,
That's what they're saying.
because his shoulder surgery
Yeah,
was
yeah.
so bad.
Okay, then you need Buehler, man.
Mhm.
Then you need Buehler, and I'm fine with that.
No,
And-
Tani comes back too.
Just to give
And Glass now,
to put a
Yeah.
positives because we've been
Kershaw,
been
too.
very we've
and
been
Kershaw. Thank you.
we've been bogged down by the pitching and things like that. I want to go more positive on
Sure,
it.
sure.
Some of the casuals may not fully have a grasp on it. Why, Nick, is Tommy Edman the best hitter in baseball right now?
Dude, I mean,
great
players
trade
get
deadline
hot,
acquisition.
but look, I'm not going to lie. You weigh the NLCS MVP and the ALCS MVP. You think who's more impactful? I'm saying the ALCS MVP. Giancarlo Stanton was more impactful to that series than Tommy Edman was. Yes,
I can see
Tommy
why.
Edman did it all. He poked 2 singles through the hole on ground balls. Yes, he hit that big home run. Yeah, he had a really
He did
solid
have
double.
11
and he did
RBIs
the
too.
Yes.
You love the.
How many RBIs did
I know.
Giancarlo Stanton?
I know.
He
I'm
also
agreeing
had,
with you.
Didn't Stanton also have 11?
I think it was 4 home runs.
I think they
that's where
tied
it
each other
takes
in
the case.
RBIs.
Stanton
What
had-
was the dance? What did he do after he got the? There we go.
We love
Perfect,
that.
perfect.
Stanton also had 5.
What I want to see is
home runs,
Freddie
11
Freeman
RBIs.
doing that, but I fear his ankle is
Was
too
it
hurt to be
5?
doing
To
that
do this?
in the world.
In the
To get to
playoffs?
second
Or-
base.
Oh right.
To get to
Before-
second
Before
base.
the ALC.
Yes, that's what we're talking about. Yeah.
So, look. Tommy Edman, dude, he put together a great series. Do I trust it to go into the World Series? Maybe, maybe not. But what's important about the Dodgers offense right now is that Will Smith got going in the last 2 games of the series.
Yeah.
That's
You
a
know
big
who
were
one.
the
else?
biggest
You know
hater.
who else got going in this series? Teoscar Hernandez, the home run derby champion, not Pete Alonso. Pete Alonso's in Cancun right now. Will Smith and Teoscar Hernandez are carrying the Dodgers offense.
Teoscar
And
played
you know
well.
what? You know what? Guess who hit 2 home runs in 1 game in the NLCS? Andy Pages in the 9 hole.
He did.
What is going on? The Dodgers lineup is filthy 1 through 9, but guess what? The Yankees offense is also filthy 1 through 9 because of the absolutely disciplined at-bats that the Yankees are taking. You look at Volpe, over 800 OPS in the last series. You look at Alex Verdugo having good at-bats. Anthony Rizzo, by the way, the OPS is around 800. You have all of these guys on the Yankees who are converting at the same time that the Dodgers hitters at the bottom of the lineup are converting. It is amazing. Both teams 1 through 9 are filthy.
And I want to ask, too, just to give us bullet points, the keys for the Dodgers to win the series against the Yankees specifically. How would you dissect that?
It's on Flaherty and Yamamoto.
you
Those
really
are the 2 guys.
game 1, game 2.
Because we've seen them both fall apart in this postseason. We've seen Yamamoto once
True.
fall apart. We've seen Flaherty do it twice. We've also seen them shove. It is totally on them because the Yankees pitching staff right now, not next year, right now is better than the Dodgers starting pitching
Well, we even
staff.
talked about it in the Yankee conversation prior to you coming in. Dodgers are they have a bullpen day stenciled in. That's how
That's how it
unhealthy
goes.
they are at pitcher.
Shout
and
out
the,
Dave Roberts.
And the Yankees have guys. Yeah, shout out Dave Roberts. He's been fantastic. The Yankees just have guys on ice. They have a guy like Nestor Cortez on ice. They have a guy like Marcus Stroman on ice. I think either of those guys would probably be the 3rd starter for this Dodger team, right?
And then you have Luis Hill as your 4th starter.
Right
for the
now?
Yankees as
right
well.
now,
Healthy, either of those guys on this Dodger
what,
roster? You're telling me they don't start?
You have Yamamoto,
Buehler and
Flaherty.
Flaherty.
That's it.
Bueller, and
yeah.
then instead of the
I
bullpen
would
day?
have Nestor over. Well, Nestor, dude, like he said publicly, he's like, I don't care if my arm falls apart to win this World Series.
Right.
Yeah.
And if I don't play it,
Love that
Dude,
mentality.
Boone also
No,
said
I
no
don't love that
length. He's getting like an
mentality.
inning
Good.
maybe too.
That's exactly what
Yeah.
I said on
That's all you
Nosebleeds
need,
today.
really.
Yeah.
Because if I say he faces the minimum 3 batters, and if he does not get them all out, you yank him out of the game.
Immediately, yeah.
Are you kidding me? His first start is going to be in the World Series. When he says my arm's about to explode, that's not happening to me. Sorry,
I'd rather have
it-
Stroman in
it's-
that spot.
I would rather have Stroman in that
I don't
spot.
know.
Great
I don't know
point,
about
Chris
that one.
Carrino.
I don't know about because Stroman is a ground ball pitcher, and we're talking about a team like the Dodgers who rely on contact. I mean, Stroman relies on
Dude,
command and position of the
Stroman
plate
gives up
zone.
more home runs than Nestor does. Like, let's be real.
Ne-
and
Nestor's, a,
that's what's going to kill him.
Nestor's a guy that he will face Ohtani and Freeman in the lineup.
But Nestor's a lefty.
But
and
that's
so are
that's
Freeman and Ohtani.
that's the
so
thing.
important.
So you only need Cortez for an inning because once you have Ohtani and Freeman coming up to bat, that's when you throw in Cortez, and he
Okay.
can get in the righty as well
But
if it's
let's
bets.
be real. We're in the 8th inning. You have Nestor coming out of the pen. Do you want Tim Hill, Tim Meza, or Nestor Cortez with no experience pitching? I want Tim Hill in every situation there.
I like it.
I'll take Hill or Cortez.
I will
honestly.
I'm not taking
I will
Cortez raw.
take
I'm not doing that.
Cortez. Wow. I will take Cortez in place of Meza
Yes,
Yeah,
100%.
duh.
in like 1 inning spots. That's it. I don't know what kind of leverage Cortez gets. Also, I also want to ask before we go to
Yeah, sorry.
the impact of Teoscar Hernandez.
What a guy.
What a series he had against the Yankees.
Had
as well.
success against the Yankees this
Really
year, yeah.
great series
Friend
for
of
him.
WFUV Sports.
That's
Friend
right.
of W.
Did an
Well,
interview.
friend of Nick Palmer through WFUV.
Him and
represents-
Blake Trinan.
Right.
He's a friend of WFUV
I
Sports.
I
So
wanted
is
you
Blake
to, I wanted to
Trinan.
give you your credit in the middle of that.
He's a friend of WFUV.
Did you pull out the Spanish there?
Yeah, a little bit.
Shh.
I
Man
said-
of many tricks.
I said el hombre de la hora, which means the man of the hour, because he hit so many home runs.
Tu habla español.
Un poquito, sí, porque tomo la clase de español.
Talk
en
about
Los
Teoscar
Ángeles
in
por
Spanish.
8.
Finish the segment in Spanish about
Teoscar
Teoscar.
Hernández golpe mucho jorrón. And cuando él va al World Series, no es un contesto. No es un
Sí.
contesto. Teoscar Hernández y Will Smith, los dos, jorrones. Por días, por meses, por años. Pero los Yankees en 7.
Yankees in
Word.
7. Those are the words of Nick Palmer.
Vamos.
Nick, thanks so much for coming on the show.
I
man.
love being on the show.
It was a
with you.
That
lot
was
of
awesome.
fun, man.
That
I
was
like
That was why
Muy
you
bueno.
were brought here. That's why you get paid the big bucks. One-on-one nightly. 718-817-2750. Call in. Let's chat. Nick Palmer, thanks for joining us.
Love you guys.
And we'll be right back on One-on-One Nightly. We love you too.
What's up, everyone? I'm Evan Harkin, one of your New York Mets beat reporters for the 2024 season. Hop on the 7 train with us as we cover all things Mets at Citi Field. From walk-off home runs to post-game press conferences, we've got everything you need from Queens. So stay locked in for the entire game with me on Twitter at Ev Harkin, and let's go Mets. WFUV, your home for New York sports.
Well, Nick Palmer is going to pick the Yankees in 7 games because he wants to, because he thinks so. Whatever it is, the Yankees are going to win in 7 games. Great to talk to Nick. That was a lot of fun. We're going to talk a little Mets for the next 10 or so minutes. But before we get into the Mets, we forgot to give our prediction for this World Series. I will start it off right away because I don't want to cut too much time into the Mets segment. But let's go Yankees in 7. I'm also going to go Yankees in 7.
I'm going to stick to the correlations I was making earlier with the 2009 World Series. I'll go Yankees in 6.
I like it.
I love the answer. I think LA's pitching absolutely blows. Yankees in 6.
I feel more confident post Nick Palmer talk, which I didn't think would be the case, but I actually feel more confident from the Yankee perspective.
I feel great.
Brought up some great points, and the Dodgers are really banged up right now for sure. This is a great time for the Yankees to capitalize on this situation that they have on their hands. So you win a ring, it solves a lot of different things for you in terms of bringing guys back. However, there is one team that could steal the heart and soul of what got the Yankees to the World Series. That is the New York Mets. Let's go through their season just a little bit. Unbelievable run. They start 0-5. No one's at the stadium, right? Ridiculous stuff. Jorge Lopez, they go 11 games under 500. Jorge Lopez chucks that glove into the stands, DFA'd, released, really rock bottom for the Mets. 67-40 the rest of the way, best record in Major League Baseball. You had an appearance from Grimace, the McDonald's land character. That did wonders for the Mets. Good gimmicks. They had good vibes this year. Their second baseman wrote a song and released it and performed it. That's
Insane.
awesome. Those are just fun gimmicks.
We
They had-
we normalized that. That was insane.
It was
That
insane.
It's on your playlist right now, I bet.
Not
It's
gonna
not on my
lie.
playlist, but it
I
was.
did listen to it the other day.
It's a fun song. It was the Mets anthem for sure, 100%. They had a top 3 MVP candidate. He's probably going to finish the runner-up behind Shohei Ohtani, who we didn't even mention 50-50 season. That's what helped get the Dodgers to the postseason and to the World Series as well. Francisco Lindor will finish right behind him. Mark Vientos, unbelievable run in the season. Underrated regular season. His postseason was ridiculous. 18 hits, 5 of those being home runs, 14 RBIs, a 327 average, and a 998 OPS.
And Will, it felt like his offensive production was there the whole year and really
Oh, it was.
and
Yeah,
making
it
an
was.
impact, but his defensive production really improving the second half of the year. That's what really sent him into, maybe solidifying his spot in this Met team, which, it may sound crazy 8-10 months ago, but now it's you would die to have that guy on a roster.
He stepped up big time. He, personally, I do want to get into this for the little time we have here. That could be Pete Alonso's replacement. I thought that was going to be.
Space.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I think that
Interesting.
could be his replacement or JD's replacement. He just becomes the full-time DH. That works. You don't have to pay him as much money. All of these guys, impending free agents. Mark Vientos, he needs to play, barring health, all 162 games for the Mets next year. It just needs to happen. You need to invest in your core, and they've done that. He's, I believe, going to be 25 or 26 now. It's time for him to get everyday
sure.
reps, 100% where you can find him at. But just some amazing moments for the Amazons this year. The Alonso 3-run home run, Lindor's grand slam against the Phillies. Watching their pitching as well. How scrappy were their pitchers, specifically their starters between Severino, Minaya, Jose Quintana. Unbelievable starts, top to bottom, 100%.
Yeah, fantastic season. Disappointment cannot be a feeling you have as a Met fan. The expectation maybe got lowered after a slow start, but was never in a really high place. And for them to do what they did this year, especially with the age of which they did it and the positioning of which they did it, where they are setting themselves up for the future, maybe the most productive Mets year of my lifetime, even including a year they go to the World Series in 2015, because it just didn't feel like they were as set up for the future as they are now. It would be all positives for me as a Met fan right now. You can't even have, what's the negative? They lost to the Dodgers in the NLCS.
No one
Yeah.
expected
you know what I
that,
mean?
right?
Yeah.
That's exactly.
Like you say yourself, right? The Mets started 0-5. There are 3 pitchers who led them throughout this postseason, right? Minaya, Severino, and Quintana, all 1-year deals. Like you can't. As a Met team before the season started, you just sign players just to have a rotation, and those 3 end up being like pretty much co-ace to co-ace to co-ace. Like those were 3 guys that really stepped up. JD Martinez was a late, spring training signing, and he did his thing for a little bit, but then eventually you get to trade for Jesse Winker, and he was the energy for the Mets. I know we talked about Jose Iglesias being like the driving factor, but like once Winker came into play, like he was that dude in the postseason, the regular season. Mets have so much to look forward to next season. Like I get it, they have a lot of money to play with in the offseason.
Yeah,
a lot of free
especially
agents.
with Scherzer and Verlander coming off
That's
of their
big.
books.
Yeah.
I mean, Cohen's a guy who's going to pay the big bucks, even if those 2 are still on like their salary. But just saying that they're getting rid of that salary for this coming off season, even more money to play with. They might look into their 3 pitchers with Severino, Quintana, and Minaya, in case Minaya like opts out. Like they might look at them like maybe try to sign them back and then worry about the rest of the stars that they pull this all season. But I really think this all season is going to be headlined. I know you talk about Juan Soto. It's going to be headlined by if P. Alonso comes back for the Mets.
I agree. I will. This is the last time I'm going to mention this because it worked out for the Mets and they shouldn't have done this whatsoever. I was a big proponent of them trading Alonso to replenish that farm system because I believe the Mets are going to be that good. I'm a big fan of their farm system, and they're getting to a point where they have so many guys that they will be able to trade major league pieces that will be very impactful for them. Watching the core blossom right now, it's led by Lindor. Look at their whole infield right now. Alvarez catching. Let's say Alonso doesn't come back. It's Vientos at first. that's a hypothetical, but I could totally see him slotting in at first base. Luis Angel Acuna at second base. You have Lindor at shortstop, and then you have Ronnie Mauricio also coming back, a guy that has not been talked about because he was out all of this year.
Great addition. I forgot about him.
Unbelievable. He's a great ball player. So they have a good core. They have pieces that they can trade away and get more impactful stuff. Maybe that's what they were also banking on as well. I think they're out on Brett Beatty. I would be totally in on Ronnie Mauricio 100%. So their core is going to be really, really solid. They have the depth in this farm system to bring in major league talent. So some guys that are available, Pete Alonso, Sean Manaea, Jose Quintana, Luis Severino, JD Martinez, Jesse Winker, Harrison Bader, Phil Maton, Ryan Stanek, Jose Iglesias, all guys that had meaningful impact in their
a lot of guys who
run.
are important to that Met team.
100%. They do have a pool of guys that they can trade away to get guys in. Outfield depth is going to be a big thing for the Mets. You still have Starling Marte and Brandon Nimmo. Outside of him, you're going to need more. You're losing Winker and Bader. That's outfielders 3 and 4. I could kind of see the Mets. Obviously, they want to go for Juan Soto. That's the big deal here. I could see them really utilizing their prospects on a pivot. If they don't get Juan Soto, go out and get Luis Robert. Move Brandon Nimmo to a corner. Go out and get Luis Robert. Sign some starting pitching. The Mets have a lot of room to do.
They're not far. It doesn't seem like they're far with this postseason. You could see that they're not far. Maybe just a piece or two away.
You're talking about a team that just got eliminated in the NLCS, right?
Mm-hmm.
Beginning of the season, even during the season, you do not see the Mets going anywhere close to the World Series. So just say that they're going into the offseason, just a couple games away from the World Series, and now they have this deep young core that they can build on. It's really going to be an important offseason for them. They're going to need pitching because, 3 of their main guys are now free agents. They got to look into who's going to fill out the last outfield spot or even 2 outfield spots because you need a depth there. If I'm the Mets, I feel amazing. Like, I am happy for the years to come. You know the young guys are here to stay. If Alonso doesn't come back, I mean, I do like the idea of Vientos playing first base. I think that could really
I like that too.
benefit
I didn't think of
him,
that,
honestly.
Will, until you said it.
Like, he wasn't a bad defender at third base, but, like, I think he would excel even better at first base a little bit. And then, the power's there. One thing that I loved about Vientos is that he is such an opposite field hitter that
he's a power there, too.
Exactly. So just knowing that you have that kind of power to all sides of the field, like, that's just amazing at this young of an age as well. Can I throw in, like, a wild card signing that the Mets can do in the offseason?
Go for it.
Santander.
I like it.
I
That's
think
a corner spot to be filled. Had over 40 home runs this year,
I think
too.
Anthony Santander could be a guy, like how you signed, like, JD Martinez and trade for Winker. Like, you want that kind of, like, power presence and an outfield spot.
Yeah.
I think Santander, especially switch hitter in Citi Field, he can play the corner outfield. Like, I think that could be an underrated pickup for them.
Kurt Sipple wants to hop on the producer mic. Let's hear what Kurt has to say. Big Mets fan,
Gotta
video
hit- yeah.
producer.
Gotta
Kurt,
hit
what
the
is
Mets fan.
going on, dude? We can't hear you. You got to turn that mic B on, or that studio A.
Wrong mic. My
there
bad.
it is.
It's like, I don't know why you guys trust me to do these things, but your resident Mets fan, I'm gonna be honest. Like, I'm very excited for the future.
Should be.
I've never been this excited to be this excited for a franchise that I'm a fan of, other than when the Nets got KD, Kyrie, and James Harden, and that didn't work out.
Hopefully it doesn't go down that way.
It doesn't.
Yeah,
I don't think it will go down that way. But the amount of capital I feel like that the Mets have right now makes me so happy as a fan. Even though that you lose in the NLCS, and I was listening to some sports talk radio the other day, it's like you are in one of the best positions in baseball right now. You have a great GM. You have a an owner who does not care about the money that you're spending. Like, I was talking to our sports sports director yesterday, Bobby Chaffardini, that everyone has a bottom line. And I feel like Steve Cohen doesn't have a bottom line. I feel like his pockets are forever deep. And I think that that's why I'm so excited, is that you have an owner that finally cares. And you have a GM that can fill the shoes for the job. So I'm just so excited for the future of this Mets team. And, yeah.
Yeah, you definitely should be. They did the right thing, too, with the farm system, Kurt. They made it that it was cool when Cohen came in and signed all of those guys, right? They spent money, they won 100 games, but then it didn't really work out, and he got them a farm system. You bit the bullet a little bit, you tanked a little bit last year, and this year you go on an improbable run, and you still hold steady that farm system.
And I will add to your point about the farm system. I got to be involved with it a little bit this summer while reporting on the Cyclones, and you saw a lot of great pieces that the Mets have. One, to trade. They can trade some of those guys for better players, or two, just be better team. Like one of the guys, Jonah Tong, that we got to watch over the summer, he's going to be incredible, Major League Baseball player. He's incredible, and he's only 21 years old. He turned 21 when I was there, reporting on one of his games when he almost threw a perfect game. He's going to be incredible, and that farm system as well excites me, and I only got to watch single A, so I can only imagine what it's like in double and triple right now.
Yeah, and they have a lot of pieces that they can move, too. Like, is Kevin Parada really going to stay? I don't know, but fun season for the New York Mets, 100%. They'll be back. I think a lot of people compared this to 1984. It took them a couple of years to get to 1986. This could be the makings. The 2024 Mets, who knows? It'll be a fun offseason, though, 100%. Great season. Hats off to the Mets, and hats off to this segment. We'll be right back here on One on One.
What's going on, everyone? I'm Jack Warner, one of your WFUV beat reporters for the 2024 New York Mets. Baseball is in the air in Queens, and I'll have you covered all season long as Carlos Mendoza looks to lead the Amazons to a World Series title in his first season as New York's manager. To stay in the loop on every Severino bump day or Lindor big fly, follow me on Twitter at Jack_Warner23. I'll have you covered with live in-game updates, exclusive media availability, and post-game recaps about your boys in blue and orange. WFUV is your home for New York sports.
Welcome back to One-on-One Nightly. Here, our final segment. Going to end it off with some basketball. I'm Chris Carrino, joined by Will Talent, Angel Ducret. Guys, opening night in the NBA last night, the local New York Knicks went to Boston for Boston Celtic ring night, receiving their rings after their championship last season, and they played like champions. They jumped on the Knicks really early in that game, up by 20 after the first quarter, and the Knicks never really recovered. That final ended up being 132-109. Celtics get a victory on opening night. And then after that, the second game of the slate at 10:30, Los Angeles Lakers at home take care of business against last year's Western Conference finalist Minnesota Timberwolves. Lakers looked very impressive there. A lot of storylines with Bronny James playing, the first ever father-son duo to ever play in the NBA, along with J.J. Redick's coaching debut with the Lakers. A lot of storylines there. Lakers looked really good. But guys, let's just open it up to the beginning and just take it very generally. The NBA is back. How do we feel?
I'm pumped. I love basketball. This is, as you were saying in the beginning of the show, Angel, it's the best time of the year. Football, hockey, basketball, baseball, all going on at the same time. I know baseball's only got another week left, but basketball is back, man. Knicks They kept me going last year in the spring. It was a lot of fun to watch. Last night was not fun to watch whatsoever. Lot to point out there, but I'm pumped basketball's back. I'm always pumped basketball's back.
I'm always happy when you have basketball come back. You know, I didn't get to see OKC opening night. I got to see them tomorrow night. But just watching Knicks Celtics, that's always going to be a classic game no matter what. Went the Celtics' way. Knicks looked a little shaky. And then even Timberwolves and Lakers for the nightcap. Like, that was a really entertaining game that you kind of didn't expect. You know, you kind of like, all you thought about was the talks about Bronny James and LeBron James. But ultimately, that game became, like, super fun to watch. So just happy that we finally have NBA basketball again.
Yeah. New York's longest running sports call-in show, 718-817-2750. That's the number to call in. Join the conversation here. This is the last topic of our show. We'll start it off, just kind of touched on it briefly. The New York Knicks, seemingly maybe the biggest story in the NBA offseason, the biggest story in the NBA. They make major acquisitions to get players the caliber of Mikal Bridges, Karl Anthony Towns, building off the momentum they had last year with their second-round loss to the Indiana Pacers. Knicks look like they have as much momentum as any team does in the NBA right now. They go into the game last night. Seemingly, a lot of that momentum dissipates with a poor first quarter, but they play them relatively tightly the rest of the way. The Boston Celtics looked extremely impressive, guys.
Yeah, they were shooting the lights out, and they did play better as the game went on. They didn't outscore them at all, but the Knicks did look a little bit more lively through quarters 2 through 4. But I think the big thing was the wingstop defense of Mikal Bridges and OG Anunoby. You know, that was the market for the whole offseason. And Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum just go crazy. I mean, Jason Tatum was 14 for 18, 8 of 11 from 3 as well, 37. Jaylen Brown also at 23. So it was a tough watch, man. It was just a really, really tough watch with the Knicks, and they did not shoot well at all. Mikal Bridges, 2 for 7 from 3. He made up for it, you know, a little bit in the field, but it was just not. It didn't look like everything had been put together for the Knicks. And personally, I think Cat's a great player. I didn't love the trade in the beginning. I thought they sacrificed a little bit too much of their bench, and that's how you beat the Celtics. The Knicks went from about 7 starters to 5 with the Cat trade. The Celtics have, like, I mean, you could correct me if I'm wrong, but 7 to 8 guys that could start on NBA teams.
Almost 9.
Almost
probably.
9. So if you're going to beat them, you got to match up like that, and the Knicks took that away with this Cat trade.
Angel, going to just cut you off shortly. We actually have a caller. Our fellow, our peer, our WFUV peer, Jack Warner, is calling into the show, wanting to talk a little ball. Jack, how are we today, and what's on your mind?
I'll tell you what. After last night, I feel phenomenal, gentlemen. I had the pleasure of watching the Boston Celtics have an exclamation point of a start to the season, and you know, this one feels good, even though it's just the opening night. I even had trainees at training last night that were talking that rah-rah, talking that smack to me about being a Celtics fan in the city, and that I got it all messed up, and clearly I do not, but I digress.
You do not, Jack.
One thing I just wanted to throw out there, and I want to I understand me having the Celtics fan label could maybe taint how you view what I'm about to say, but I did want to throw this out there just for you guys to kind of discuss a little bit. I just feel like last night had a particularly nice feeling around it for Jason Tatum. You look at the stats aside, I understand any person that has a slight understanding of basketball knows that 8 for 11 from 3 and dropping 37 in opening night against the Knicks is a great night. But I just feel like there's a disrespect that he gets. We can have the overrated conversation another time. I think you can be a good basketball player and still be overrated. I don't think overrated is the most, you know, insulting thing that you can say. I think people sometimes take that word a little too seriously, but I think there's a general disrespect that players of his caliber have rarely ever gotten. And again, I could be a little skewed just because I love him as a Celtics fan, but it just feels like he never gets the benefit of the doubt in a lot of basketball discourse. And I just felt like last night had a particularly nice feeling if you're somebody who's a Jason Tatum backer and you're seeing him go out on opening night after having to ride the pine for the entire Olympics, which, again, whether that was right or wrong, it's a completely separate conversation. But you think of just like having to sit on the sideline for that entire Olympic run, the disrespect that I think he gets from time to time. I just feel like last night was really a really great like moment for him in his career.
Yeah, Jack. I have a lot of negative feelings toward Jason Tatum, just personally, just because I'm a bit of a hater. But looking at the situation objectively, coming off of winning a championship, fulfilling his lifelong career dream, and it almost feeling like he's an afterthought in it with Jaylen Brown receiving the MVP, and then just to almost immediately go into USA Basketball where it feels like he's overshadowed there as well. Now, a lot of vindication kind of on the line for Tatum, a lot of vindication in play for Jason Tatum. And last night, more than anything, must have just felt good for him. To Jack's point, the whole country is watching. You're getting your ring. It's opening night. It's the first game of the season. As big as the stage gets in the regular season, and for him to ball out in the way he did, I mean, that three-point shooting, Jack alluded to it, but absolutely fantastic. If you're going to take that many threes, you better be hitting the majority of them. But yeah, Jason Tatum definitely vindicating for him. Planning to be a vindication tour for him throughout this season and throughout this year.
I think. And one last thing.
Yeah,
one last thing I'll say before I hop off the line, because I actually stepped out of class to make this call. I'm actually right upstairs from you guys. I'm in
I
here.
love this.
But
the dedication.
One last thing I'll say is I really strongly agreed with Chris Carrino's sentiment on Nick Palmer's fan allegiances. The rationale for it makes sense, but in theory, it just doesn't make sense. To have the two most corporate white bread baseball teams as your two favorite teams is just something really I struggle to wrap my head around. And yeah, you guys are having a great show tonight, boys. Love you all. Thank you for taking my call.
Jack Warner, we appreciate you, and we appreciate your dedication, stepping out of class, just having a Celtic itch that he just needed to scratch. We appreciate you, and yeah, Nick Palmer. I mean, we could touch on it just for a second here, but it's rough. The two teams, for me, as I said to him, in Nick's personal case, it totally makes sense, and all his rationale makes sense and all that. But just as an idea, it's backwards to me in everything I believe as a sports fan. But back to basketball, back to the NBA. We're going to actually take it on the flip side now. The later game, Lakers-Timberwolves, obviously the biggest story in this game, Bronny James becoming the first son to play with his father in the NBA. But the bigger story in my world, in my basketball head, was the coaching of J.J. Redick, how hard that Laker team was playing, and just how great of a performance they had against one of the best teams in the Western Conference last year.
Yeah, when it came to that game, a lot of headlines was going to Bronny James, going to LeBron James. They had a little moment at the end of the second quarter, but like you said, J.J. Redick was having his coaching debut, ends off with a win, and you can really see that not only were the players passionate and truly on board with his coaching style, but you can see it in the timeouts and kind of see J.J. Redick was in the game and he was trying to make sure the plays were being run. He cared so much about what was going on around, and it led to the success of this team. I mean, someone that you don't think much about because of his injuries or inconsistent play, like Anthony Davis, dropped 36 to 16 on opening night, and that was a huge factor into the win. Then you have someone you didn't even have LeBron score 20, right? You had an overall team performance, and against the Timberwolves team that we all, I think, kind of expect to make a deep run in this year's playoffs and in the season in general, probably a top 3 seed at the end of the year. The Lakers made a statement by not only winning opening night, but having an overall team performance and not just relying on LeBron James and the headlines or just Anthony Davis.
Yeah,
definitely.
I thought Anthony Davis looked great, too.
He
I
did.
didn't know he had 3 blocks as well. Great stat line for him. We'll see how it goes. I think you're spot on, Chris. We were talking about it before. This is probably the best the Lakers have looked in quite some time, too, now with J.J. Redick being the head coach.
And just in the narrative on Anthony Davis that he has made a paper and he falls into a category
Definitely
like
didn't
Embiid.
show that.
2024, or actually the calendar year 2023, he played more basketball than any other NBA player. And last year he was also very dependable with his health. So that on top of just how much of a cohesive unit they look like, Lakers definitely scary and someone to look out for in the Western Conference.
Yeah, I wouldn't roll back on the Timberwolves as well.
Right.
A lot of game 1 stuff here.
Just,
same
yeah.
with the Knicks, but Randall, he was okay. Ant was great, 27 points on 10 of 25. You hope that's a little bit more efficient down the line. But Rudy Gobert, 13 and 14. They're going to be right up there. I don't know how high up the Lakers are going to be, but yeah, definitely a very gritty win for sure for the Lakers. But I'm just pumped it's all back, man. This is
Absolutely.
I'm excited. You have a full NBA slate now tonight, and then just moving forward to the rest of the season, like NBA is back.
It's so back. And yeah, full slate. Knicks, I would have to look it up. I don't even know who they're playing next, but I'm just happy they're back, get back on track. The Lakers, they open the season out with a great W. LeBron James and his son, they make history. But that's going to do it here for this World Series edition of One-on-One Nightly. Lots of baseball, squeezed in a little bit of basketball at the end. Thanks for calling in at Jack Warner. Lots of fun stuff, but we'll see. Yankees, Dodgers, the 12th time that they're squaring off against each other in the Fall Classic. The sports director of WFUV Sports is Bobby Chaffardini. Our radio producer today was Trey Rodriguez, and on the graphics, it was Kurt Sipple. For Chris Carrino, Angel Ducret, I'm Will Talent, signing off from One-on-One Nightly. Enjoy the rest of your night, everybody.